Hey, welcome to Mullen Stock. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications by hitting the bell so you never miss any of our uploads. And also remember that this is not a financial advice video. Now let's start. So today I want to give you a quick overview of what to expect for this upcoming week. What might cause a little bit more volatility points do you need to watch for, and go over some of the latest updates. So I'm going to go over it all. Make sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So as far as some data points coming out, there is a lot of data points associated to, for instance, consumers, and that is coming out on Thursday and Friday. If positive, then the economy should have a nice little rally as a result. But there is that overlooming kind of fear associated to the whole debt ceiling. And I think that one of the things that's causing a lot of volatility, generally speaking. But they do have up until I think June the 1st to come to a conclusion. And if it is positive, that the broader market should have a very good rally. When it comes down to Mullen, though, they are on a whole different spectrum. Whatever happens as far as positive news, even for Mullen goes down. If, for instance, there is good economic data, then the market will go up, Mullen will go down. And unfortunately, if the economic data that does come out is very negative, then Mullen goes down twice as hard. It's very, very difficult because a lot of people do generally want a catalyst right now. And of course, a lot of people, at least in the short term, look to Lawrence for that catalyst, especially considering he has made a very bold statement saying that looks like May is going to be a good month. And the problem with these very vague statements, it does give a lot of hope because, like I said, a lot of people are looking for at least some justification or a catalyst for Mullen, because right now we already do know in July it is going to be the M3 production. That's when it's going to be kicking off. But from now until July, like I said, a lot of people are looking to Lawrence for that catalyst factor. But he might just be talking about flowers or something that he is doing in his own personal life that is going to be making May a good month in reality. So it's one of those great kind of scenarios, and the fact that he's gone silent doesn't necessarily help. But of course, I think silent you can take with a grain of salt. But as of late, especially associated to Lawrence, this was posted on Reddit. So it looks like Kendall did a lot of DD, and in reality it looks like Lawrence was given roughly around $300,000. Looks like, as far as if I read this correctly, more so for battery technology and testing and so forth. But he did use that funds for other things. So this technically does not look good by any means. I think there is a lot of X factors that is potentially missing from here to see a good big picture. But generally just by reading this, not necessarily the best, and of course coming from Mullen. This is the last thing I think investors truly do need. Even though he has clearly stated many times in the past that he is not Mullen, he is through that LLC. But potentially, like I said, he is being seen as that short-term catalyst. So in reality, hopefully he does address this, because even though, like I said, he goes silent every so often, he does kind of just do these random posts. So maybe he does hopefully post about this, because in many of his Facebook live streams he is very open. He said that he's been to jail because of this, blah, 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 things like that. So hopefully he does continue this open transparency and does bring this up in reality. But like I said, definitely that's something to consider. And any of this grayness is going to translate into shorts, increasing their position in Mullen. Of course, that's just my own interpretation. I'm not a financial advisor. You guys do your own due diligence. I'll give you guys a quick overview of, for instance, what shorts are right now, and especially going into next week. So short score is currently 83. Utilization is 100%. And as far as on paper, shorts increased 109.43k shares on Friday, still on the threshold list, and 17.27% of the free float is being shorted, and that's around 24.5 million overall shares. So of course, definitely fairly high. But over and above that though, cost to borrow average is 272.2%. So if someone just looks at this technically, it's a very good squeeze. The only thing is it's always missed is a very good catalyst. And I think right now, like I said now for the 4th or 5th time in this video alone, Lawrence is that catalyst. And again, there's only, I think, a week and a half left in May. So in reality, even though he might be talking about something very unrelated to his technology, the fact that he did say that May is going to be a good month, and obviously if there is no Saudi deal or potentially even just any news in general in May, the stock price is just going to plummet. Because even right now, looking at the technicals, things are very, very bad. Especially right now, it did break past this S2. Like I said, as soon as it breaks past this S2, you have to anticipate that most likely it is going to be trading below $1, which completely does suck. And on Friday, it did touch 100, and $1 is going to be a very big psychological kind of support, and so this is why it did bounce off of that temporarily. But if there is continuing to have all this FUD floating around Lawrence and just a lack of catalysts, then unfortunately it is going to break and stay below $1. But of course, that's just my own interpretation. When it comes down to it though, you do see a lot of call options being purchased. But most likely, once again, that is just shorts hedging their bets through that because on Friday alone, there was $363,000 in call premiums, $137 in put premiums. But as I always say, options activity doesn't necessarily move the stock price. It is just purely a sentiment. So of course, based on this, obviously people do anticipate that it will go up based on the call volume. But generally speaking, like I said, I think it's just shorts hedging their bets. This can add as well the fact that it is now on the short sell restriction list, and this is different, for instance, than the threshold list. So completely different things, just be aware of that. So the short sell restriction list, if you want to consider it, it is the uptick rule. So Rule 201 by the SEC in the uptick rule, for the most part, is just the fact that if it does go below or more than down 10%, shorts can't necessarily increase their position. They can only technically just sell or close out the position, if that makes sense. So for any reason, if Mullen is down 11%, it still could go down 12, 13, 14%, but that is just longs closing out the position. So again, it's been on this uptick rule in the past, and people have always said, well, how did we get down to 14%, or whatever it is technically? Like I said, it's just longs closing out their positions. Shorts can't increase their position if it is down by more than 10%. So again, that is where it comes into play. But still in reality, it's not that big of a deal. No different than, for instance, the threshold list. It's good in theory, but does it actually help Mullen? Kind of. It adds a little bit more of a safety net. Potentially a virtual one, but still it doesn't really do too much. Stochastic is currently at 3, which is considered very oversold. So if for any reason there is that Saudi deal or a good piece of news that does come out as what is promised by Lawrence, then this is where you could see a little bit more of a value rally associated to that. And depending on the catalyst and assuming there is no tentative monetary kind of strings attached to that, then this is where you potentially as well could see a catalyst, because of course it being a surprise and momentum indicator, number of retail investors have been getting out, as you can tell, or at least kind of flat. So I think a lot of people are hanging on merely because of Lawrence, and that's the sentiment I've been getting as well. I think a lot of people generally are done or kind of just withdrew themselves mentally from Mullen, and are just purely waiting on Lawrence to provide a catalyst for any reason. Like I said, if he doesn't provide any news, credible news by May, I do feel that that is going to be the breaking point for a lot of investors. But like I said on this channel, I like to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And of course there is some potentials for positives coming down the pipeline. The whole rumor about FedEx and so forth. But of course I think the whole M1 needs to really ramp up on that and hopefully announce production of the M1 at least in the next little bit. Because Mullen truly has been doing a fairly good job of providing a lot of good news over the last little bit. So David's really done a pretty good job there. But generally, I think we need also the M1 production to be kicked off. So both M1 and M3 revenue coming forward. Guys, that's all we have for you today. What is your opinion about Mullen stock? Get involved and let us know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching.